Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video, I'm going to take a look at Jeremy Hunt's efforts to convince people that his government isn't presiding over a self-destructive race to the bottom with a widely ridiculed video explaining inflation through the medium of coffee. The problem was that almost everything of value that he said in the video was objectively untrue. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So Jeremy Hunt, through the Treasury, has published a video explaining why inflation's high, how it puts up the price of goods, what the government are doing to halve it. And a lot of people have ridiculed the Chancellor, I think, for the style of the video. But being honest, the style of the video isn't what's ridiculous. In fact, it's actually fine. It was done in the same style as if, a journalist on the BBC was explaining the same features in a short segment on a matter of public interest. What was ridiculous was that almost every word Hunt said about how he was aiming to tackle the issues that he was explaining was untrue. And you didn't even need a particularly deep knowledge about the subject for it to not make sense. I'm going to go a little bit blow by blow on this as well. So if you want to watch the clip yourself, I've put a link in the description below. But first of all, so he goes over the average price of a cup of coffee a year ago and what it is now. But his rounding is inconsistent, to say the least. So he holds up a cup with last year's price of £2.56 and he says, that's around £2.50. And I'm thinking, really? But not the best rounding, but okay, whatever. Then he holds up today's price of £2.86 and he calls that nearly £3. I'm thinking, well, what? How are you getting that? So inconsistent rounding there, which grated on me a bit and also didn't help him because it made it sound like inflation's gone up higher than it has. But never mind that. That wasn't the crime of the video. So what he did then, he then explained how inflation puts up the price of goods. You're talking about a cup of coffee, but you can apply it to any goods, which was fine. I thought that was, in fact, I don't want to ridicule that. I would like it if the government did that more to try and explain how things work to people. I just wish they wouldn't lie so much. So that was fine to begin with. Obviously, when he was explaining what had caused inflation, he didn't mention Brexit. Funny that. But it's a political broadcast. I'd have been bowled over if he had. He cited the recovery from COVID restrictions. He cited Russians' action in Ukraine. But then he said, and although gas prices are coming down now, that we are told that energy prices will not be for some time. We are told, you're the government, you set the energy prices. Also, he didn't say why it was that although gas prices are coming down, that we're not going to see energy prices coming down for some considerable time. I mean, I know, but why doesn't he's explaining everything else? Why didn't he explain that to the nice people? He also didn't say why our energy prices had risen to double those in France, when both countries suffered from COVID and Russia in the same way. But the real nonsense was reserved for what he said the government was going to do about it. Because I've been waiting for this. He says he's got a plan to halve inflation. I keep saying, well, inflation was forecast to be halved before you even became Chancellor, mate. So what are you doing? So first of all, he said the government is investing a lot of money in renewables. No, it's not. The last Labour government did. And when the Tories axed the programme, they came to power, they axed the programme. If we'd continued, we wouldn't have had such steep energy price increases now, would we? But maybe a lot of the public aren't aware of that. In fact, I'm quite sure they're not aware of that. But surely they're aware that the Tories have been in power for nearly 13 years. If they've been investing all this money in renewables, how come 13 years later, our energy prices have doubled within the space of a year instead of come down? With gas prices being blamed. How come the gas prices are affected if we've been investing all this money in renewables? He also said nuclear power. Again, where is it then? I mean, one of the latest Tory fiddles, trying to do the rounds at the moment, is Boris Johnson started this one. Oh, we should have nuclear. The last Labour government blocked nuclear. They didn't like nuclear. If we had nuclear, we'd be fine. Again, the Tories been in power for over a decade now. So even if Labour had not been in favour, they've had over a decade to change it. Why didn't they? But it's not even true that Labour were opposed to it and then the Tories were also opposed to it. There is a famous PMQs where Tony Blair stitched up David Cameron over nuclear. Worth putting up here. I don't usually put up clips here, but it's a good one. doesn't just show you how it used to be the case that Tories were made to look ridiculous, but how it completely blows this latest Tory lie out the water. So for all his faults, Blair didn't half know how to make Tories look bloody stupid.
And as for nuclear power, let me go through the various positions that the Right Honourable Gentleman has had on nuclear power. His industry spokesman said this: "From about the age of 12, I've had an instinctive hostility to nuclear power." His Shadow Chancellor: "I'm happy to see nuclear power." The Right Honourable Gentleman: "I'm not dogmatically in favour of nuclear power, nor dogmatically against." What's my position? I'm in favour of it. Is he in favour of it? Yeah, no, I'm in favour of it. Hang on. This is government. He asked me what my position is. I'm in favour of it. Right, what's his position? Well, it actually gets better. Let me read his position. He gave it... Just in a moment. He gave his position just the other day in an interview in Green Futures. Just read this. "I want to give every opportunity for green sources of energy to come through. If they do, well and good. If they don't, and we have to keep the lights on, then nuclear might come into the picture." So, hang on a minute. So what's he going to do? The Cabinet Secretary, he's the Prime Minister, the Cabinet Secretary comes in and says, "I'm afraid the renewables haven't generated as much as we want. I'm afraid we're not going to be able to keep the lights on." What's he going to say? Rustle me up a nuclear power station.
But the bottom line is that the Tories shifted their economic policies to incentivise fossil fuels, lots of tax breaks for the fossil fuel companies when they came to power, and Labour did have tax breaks in place for renewables where it was needed to promote it. Oh, they're gone. They now punish cleaner forms of energy. And Jeremy Hunt can't even claim that this was all in the past, that he and Sunak have got a completely different vision and they're changing direction, albeit many years later. We know they're not. In fact, the climate change deniers within the Tory party are much more organised now. They have a faction, the Net Zero Scrutiny Group. They are against anything that moves us towards renewables. But Hunt's own budget statement, which he made a couple of months ago, said that he would levy extra taxes on clean energy, but retain the tax breaks of fossil fuel companies and the energy produced using them. So even as a current Tory position, never mind their position for the 12 previous years, this is a lie. Hunt also said the government were investing in energy efficiency programmes so that we use less energy. Oh, makes sense. Great, fine. Again, they're not. Labour were, and then the Tories stopped it. And just as with renewables and nuclear, it's not even the case that the Tories after 13 years have at least started Labour's programmes up again. They've realised that we now need them, or even their own alternative programmes. Where's the programme? Where are they? Where's the programme to get more insulation into people's homes or heat pumps? It doesn't exist. There are no government programmes. There have been some changes to the rules for new house builds to make them a bit more energy efficient. But that is not the government investing. He said the government had invested. That is the government telling house builders to invest in something. Investment would be the government modifying existing buildings, programs that allowed subsidised insulation or more efficient use of energy in the home. They're not doing that. So it's another lie. Finally, he said that his balancing of the books, making tough decisions, of course. Oh, yeah, there's tough decisions like taxing poorer people and not the richer people. Yeah, those tough decisions. He said that his balancing of the books meant that markets would have confidence and not punish the UK with higher interest rates. But the markets do not set interest rates. Central banks do. In fact, not just the Bank of England, but the central banks of the USA and the Eurozone are doing the same. Now, it's not 100% untrue what he says there. What the illusion will be that if investors are not investing in the pound, like they're not buying British gilts, bonds in the pound, then they have to raise interest rates to make them more attractive to investors. So that's sort of what he will mean there. But the raising of interest rates is directly hampering people because it's putting up mortgages and also putting up rents. In fact, in raising interest rates, much to the confusion of many economists, because the inflationary pressures are easing. But as I say, Hunt himself said that our high inflation was a result of Russia's invasion and easing out of COVID restrictions. He didn't cite anything else. Well, gas supply chains have been reordered, and we are now very far away from the COVID restrictions now. So that recovery period, economically at any rate, has occurred. So the two reasons he cited for high inflation are on the way out. Doesn't make sense to raise interest rates to deal with those factors. So there must be another reason. But whatever that reason is, it's nothing to do with the market's confidence in the UK, because the same rising interest rates have been seen across Europe and the US, where they haven't had a crisis of investor confidence. So what we get from this video is lies about what the government are doing to tackle inflation, which means they're doing nothing at all. And why would they? I mean, if you come in as Chancellor, you're told inflation's going to halve next year no matter what you do. You go, I won't do anything. They'll just claim I did it. Another classic Tory con job. But after so many years of economic failure, it should be a con this time that only works on those few who will just keep voting Tory no matter what. And they should be no barrier to them being kicked out of power at the next election. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, the join button for memberships. And until next time, I'll see you later.